Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today is day 5 of the inaugural Conference on Religious Trauma, also known as CORT. My name is Janice Selby, and it's my pleasure to be your host throughout CORT. I'm also a religious recovery consultant and a registered professional counselor. Today, I gratefully acknowledge that the land upon which I live, learn, and play is located in the unceded territory of the Sea Oaks people in what is now known as the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia, Canada. As you know, the Conference on Religious Trauma is committed to safer spaces and to ensuring that everything we do is accessible to everyone, even online. This means that racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, or harassment of any kind, including religious proselytizing, will not be tolerated. If at any time you experience this or would like to make any comments regarding safer spaces at the Conference on Religious Trauma, you can send a private message or email CORT information, C-O-R-T, information @gmail.com. Now, on with the really good stuff. I'm so excited about our first guest today. Canadian human rights activist Yasmine Mohammed advocates for the rights of women living within Islamic majority countries, as well as those who struggle under religious fundamentalism. Her book, Unveiled, is a memoir that recalls her experiences growing up in a fundamentalist Islamic household and her arranged marriage to a member of Al-Qaeda. Yasmine is also the founder of Free Hearts, Free Minds, an organization that provides psychological support for free thinkers living within Muslim-majority countries, where the state-sanctioned punishment for leaving Islam is death. Visit our exhibit hall to learn more about Free Hearts, Free Minds. And today, Yasmine will be sharing with us about the important work of Free Hearts, Free Minds. It is my honor to welcome Yasmine Mohammed today. Welcome, Yasmine.
Thank you so much, Janice. It is my absolute honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everybody, for those of you, especially on the West Coast, for getting up so early to join this session. So I'm not sure how many of you know too much about my background, so I'm going to start off today with giving you a little bit of background about who I am and why I started my organization, Free Hearts, Free Minds. Let me just start off with telling you why I called it Free Hearts, Free Minds. It's called Free Hearts because the Free Hearts part is in reference to members of the LGBT community who can be executed in about 15 Muslim majority countries. And then Free Minds is referring to free thinkers or people who denounce the religion of Islam. They can also be executed in those countries. So even if the country does not execute them, they are persecuted in different ways. And that's why my tagline for my organization is Think Outside the Box. So why did I start Free Hearts, Free Minds? What does Free Hearts, Free Minds do? And then a Q&A. So that's our session plan. And so let's start with the first question. Why did I start Free Hearts, Free Minds? So give you a little bit of information about who I am. Janice has already given you some. So I'm just going to my bio page on my website here, yasminemohammed.com. And it repeats quite a few of the things that Janice has already told you, so I'm not going to repeat that to you. But essentially, I was born and raised in Vancouver in a household where my mom was the second wife to a man who was already married and already had 3 children. And she married him. And once she did, she started to become what I call a born-again Muslim. And she started to wear hijab. We were forced to start reading Quran and praying 5 times a day and memorizing Quran. The man that she married came into our home and started changing everything. Suddenly I wasn't allowed to ride a bicycle anymore. I wasn't allowed to have non-Muslim friends anymore. He broke all of my mom's records because music is haram, which means forbidden. And it was essentially just a huge change in my life. I started going to Islamic schools. So we started living a very separate society, separate from the society. So even though I was born and raised in Vancouver, you'd think that I was living under a little Sharia household and community and school. And like Janice mentioned, I was eventually married off to a member of Al-Qaeda. My family felt that they needed to marry me off to somebody who was strong enough to control me. And so they chose him. I had a daughter with him. And once I had a daughter, you know, for those of you who are parents, you'll know what it feels like when you're holding your little child in your arms, knowing that you will do anything in the world to protect this baby. And I really did not want her to grow up living the same life that I'd lived, or even worse, because her father wanted us to go live in Peshawar, which is a very, it's a hotbed for terrorism. It's where he had been. He had been in Afghanistan and Pakistan for about a decade before he came to Canada, working with bin Laden and all that. So that's where he wanted us to go back. And, you know, there was him and my mom were talking about getting female genital mutilation done to my daughter. And so I knew that I had to get her out of that life. And so that's how it started. It was just me wanting to free her and free myself as well. And once we got out, I started going to university, to UBC, in fact. And when I was in UBC, I took a history of religions course. And at the same time, 9/11 happened. So there was, you know, there was a barrage on two fronts, the emotional aspect of being part of the group that were behind 9/11, and then also the intellectual side of things, getting bombarded with being in a history of religions class and realizing that a lot of the things that I took to be truth were, in fact, embarrassingly not true at all. But I'd never been given the opportunity to question or think or ask before, because it was forbidden. Because if you question, then that's the devil whispering in your ear. So you have to just do as you're told. So all of this led to me eventually writing my book, Unveiled. And when I was writing my book, that's when it all hit the fan. So as I was writing my book, which I will click on here for you to see a little bit about my book. As I was writing my book, I started to post, you know, chapter by chapter online on Tumblr. And it was to sort of put it out there and see, you know, what people, what their reactions would be. Well, I had no idea. I was absolutely just inundated with messages from all over the world, with people telling me how much they relate to my story, how much they're empathizing with my story, and people asking me for help, saying, you're living in a free country and I am in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iran, Morocco. I mean, you know, over 50 Muslim majority countries. And because I had opened up all of the hidden and suppressed memories to write my book, I was already, I think, in a very fragile state. And then getting all of these messages from all of these people at that time and feeling so helpless and feeling like I wanted to help everybody, that's what caused me to essentially break down. I had a really, really bad breakdown. And that's when I discovered meditation, the importance of mental health support, and it saved me. And before that, I really didn't even know how deep my trauma was. And so from my experience of going through therapy and understanding all of these things that I thought were just my personality turned out to be really just results of my trauma. I thought I was going to be living with nightmares for the rest of my life. I thought I was always going to have panic attacks. But it wasn't until I became, agoraphobic and suicidal, and I was just really, hit rock bottom, that I realized, okay, I have to do something about this. And so that's what made me recognize the value of mental health support, and made me understand how much trauma leaving a religion can cause a person, especially somebody who has been disowned by their family, like I was. So then I started Free Hearts, Free Minds. And the great thing about Free Hearts, Free Minds is that it allows me to be involved in helping other people. And through helping them, I'm able to heal myself as well. So it's very rewarding work. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of the clients that we work with, like Janice mentioned, the people that we help through Free Hearts, Free Minds are living in Muslim majority countries that will execute them for either being part of the LGBT community or for denouncing the religion of Islam. So leaving any religion is difficult, of course, but it makes it extra difficult when you're living in a country where your family can, well, not in a country necessarily, because I was in Canada and my family disowned me too, but it's different for me because when my family disowned me, I was able to get student loans. I was able to continue on with my life. It's sad and it's depressing and everything, but I can survive in a secular country. There's a lot of support for me. But for somebody going through the exact same thing that I went through, who's living in a country, again, like, Afghanistan, Somalia, etc., that's not an option for them, especially for women, especially in countries like Saudi Arabia, where women are completely policed. They have male guardians that dictate when they can leave the house, where they can go when they do leave the house, if they can go to work, if they can go to school, if they can travel. They dictate, who these women marry, et cetera, et cetera. So women under Sharia are treated as dependents, even if they are grown adults. They could be grandmothers, but they're still treated as dependents. They are still dependent on a man. So again, as Janice mentioned, a lot of my work is focused on supporting women because that's mostly my experience, and women under Islam have a very different experience than men under Islam. There are a lot more restrictions put on women and on the LGBT community, of course, as well. And so I'm going to click on testimonials here and let you guys see a few of the people that we have supported and hear a few of the things that they've had to say. So this is just my Free Hearts, Free Minds website. I don't know what, maybe you didn't see anything at all, but basically I showed you my website, yasminemohammed.com. And then this is my the website for Free Hearts, Free Minds. And if you click on testimonials, then you'll get to read stories from people who we have helped. So this is a story from a person named AA in Saudi Arabia. So this is somebody who doesn't want to share his name. So he talks about, I heard about FHFM, Free Hearts, Free Minds, from a YouTuber when I was searching for LGBT comforting videos. I was feeling extremely tired and severely depressed. I even had dark thoughts and suicidal ideation. I wanted to end my life at 35. To make it brief, my mental state was significantly going downhill. Physically, I was fine. I honestly feel like I was reborn again with a new perspective of life. My depression has gotten much better, and I view life in a more optimistic lens, even though I'm still in a place that would ruin my life or kill me for just being LGBT. Overall, my mental health has improved dramatically. I had issues with regard to asking for help and reconciling my sexual identity. Those are no longer the case. I have fully accepted myself, and I gained a new understanding of a couple of things which I had a very bad experience with them. I really liked my experience in therapy with Free Hearts, Free Mind as a whole, and I had no problem with it. That's because we ask if there are any issues. I only wish I had done it earlier in my life. I liked that I didn't feel judged and crazy for voicing my thoughts. I had someone who gave me guidance and encouraged me to do better and to be easy on myself when I made any mistake. The most challenging part of therapy was talking about my family and my relationship with them. It's hard to think that the people who we call family could kill us without a thought or a care for the simple fact that you are not straight. It's heartbreaking to realize that fact. Thank you, Free Hearts, Free Minds, Yasmine, and everyone involved. I'm forever grateful. So this is somebody who is living in Saudi Arabia who could be executed for two reasons, for being gay and for denouncing Islam. So it's he's the reason why I started Free Hearts, Free Minds. He is my target audience, and I'm very, very grateful that we're able to support him. So if you scroll through, you'll be able to read lots of other stories from people in Bangladesh, Iraq, many other countries. You can keep scrolling through if you're interested. And now I keep on saying we, so I wanted to give you an idea of who we is. Can you see this page? Okay, great. So this is my team here. The next page on the slide was to talk to you about future plans. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to that and talk to you about the future plans. Right now, through the incredibly generous support of Sam Harris, I don't know if, hopefully you're all familiar with him. If you're not, you should be. He's an amazing man. He is paying for us to have a lawyer who's helping us to get incorporated as a charity. So, and then that way we can get our 501c3 status. So right now we are a California corporation, and these are a couple of our board members, Dr. Orly Petter, who is a neuropsychologist in California, and Dr. Evelyn Marcus, who is also in California. So her PhD is in psychology, and she has a lot of background in family work and in the field of traumatic stress. And then Eric Wells is another board member, and he is part of the Recovering from Religion Foundation. So he is an amazing person to have on our board because he already, in fact, he started up one of the, here it is, he's a co-founder of one of the chapters of Recovering from Religion Foundation. So he is an amazing person to have on our board. We're very grateful to have him. And then these are our two therapists. So both of our therapists are wearing masks for different reasons. Well, for the same reason. But Aisha is in Australia. So you would say, why would somebody in Australia need to cover her face? She is involved in activism. So, our clients are people who can be killed for leaving Islam state-sanctioned execution. But those of us who have left Islam and who speak about it publicly, even if we're not in a Muslim majority country, we are still not safe. So we still have to be careful. Recently, I just read about 2 Afghani people in Germany. One found out that the other was an ex-Muslim, and so she was stabbed to death by her friends, other Afghani refugees, but she's not Muslim. So even though they're in Germany, it didn't mean that she was safe. So that's just one story. Of course, there are many. And so because Aisha is public in her activism, she needs to keep her identity hidden. And Samat is in Lebanon. So because she's in a Muslim majority country, she needs to keep her identity hidden, of course, because she could lose her job, she could lose her family, she could lose her life. So these are the 2 women that are the therapists that make everything run. I'm very, very grateful to have them both on my team. Both of them are like me. We're all familiar with the experience of leaving Islam and the trauma that comes with that. And then we have 2 amazing volunteers. Ian is, he's an atheist his whole life, but a huge heart and just a wonderful man. And he volunteers with us, and he does a lot of the work when it around looking for testimonials from our clients. And then Obaid Omar is a Canadian man who his family is from India, and he has also left Islam. And so those are our 2 volunteers. So this whole team here is we're the ones that make it all happen. And I'm very, very grateful to have them all. And of course, none of this could be possible without them. And so now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and please let me know if it works. You can't see anything? That's okay. The next slide just says Q&A. So, so as I was talking, if there were any questions that popped up in your head, I'm going to pass it off to Janice now to moderate this part of the session.
That was so fascinating. Thank you for giving us some of your background. It really, for someone like me, it's just like a movie. It's so hard even to imagine. And it's horrifying to me as a Canadian that you in this country were subjected to such isolation and such demands, and how terrifying. It's really quite amazing that you made your way out, and really because of your daughter seemed to be your impetus for getting out. So I know people are wondering if you are still, if you have any contact with your mom at all, and also how is your daughter doing?
So to answer the first question, no, I do not have any contact with my mom. I haven't had any contact with her for quite a while. It's been almost 15 years. So when I started to question everything, one of the first things I did was remove my hijab. So a lot of my advocacy, a lot of my activism is around encouraging women who want to take off the hijab to feel free to do that, to know that we support them in their decision. If they want to wear it, that's fantastic. But if they don't want to wear it, I just want them to know that there are lots of people that support them in that decision, and that we'll be here to, you know, we know what it's like. Well, so we're here to cheer them on. So my first act was removing the hijab. And I really, truly, and honestly do believe that removing the hijab was like removing the shackles. you free your head and then you free your mind. You know, they're controlling not only what's on your head, but what is in your head. It's so much more than symbolic. It is a true tool of misogyny, a true tool of patriarchy. And it is truly meant to remind a woman at all times that she is subjugated, that she is second class. And so once a woman removes the hijab, she is essentially saying, no, I'm not. I am my own person, and I'm going to choose what I put on my own body. So she's saying, you can't control my body anymore. You can't control my head. You can't control my mind. And that is a very, very scary thing for the patriarchy to deal with. And when my mom saw me without a hijab on, immediately she said, well, if you've taken off the hijab, then your next step is to leave Islam. And so I need to make sure that day never happens. So I need to kill you before you leave Islam, because if you do leave Islam, then I will be the one who will be punished for that, because I have an infidel daughter. I didn't raise you properly. And so I'm going to be punished for eternity. So I won't let you ruin my hereafter. So I'll need to make sure that you're killed before you leave the religion. And I was like, I'm not going to leave Islam. I'm not going to not be a Muslim. I just don't want to wear this on my head anymore. And she just was adamant that she wanted nothing to do with me. I was no longer her daughter, and that she was going to have me killed. Now, the thing is, I have to explain, it's going to sound very, very strange, but my mom was being very logical. I knew she was going to say that. There's a part of you that thinks maybe she won't, but I knew my mom well, and I knew the religion well. I mean, my mom was the head of the Islamic studies department at our Islamic school. So it was very important that her children do very well in Islamic studies, because that was it was going to be an indication of her as a mother and as an educator. So it's kind of like, I'll put it to you this way. It's like when a mother decides that she's not, a Jehovah's Witness mother decides that she's not going to give a blood transfusion to her child. Weirdly, you don't think that mother must hate her child because she's going to allow her kid to die rather than break the laws of the religion. They're so indoctrinated that this feels like the only choice she had. It felt like it was, I knew she had to follow through on it, because she truly, truly believed it. She truly believed that she would be burned in the fires of hell for eternity because she has an infidel daughter. And she was trying to save her soul. So it's kind of very, people just immediately, it's kind of weird that I'm defending my mom who wanted to kill me, but I'm not defending her, but I'm just trying to explain in the mind of somebody who thinks that Abraham ready to kill his son, in the mind of somebody who thinks that that is a person to look up to. Honor killings are not considered murder. They are considered, the people that do it are celebrated for their ability to suppress their humanity and to follow the divine edicts. So I knew all that. And so that's why I had to get my daughter and myself as far away from her as possible. And we've had no contact with her.
Oh.
And to the second question, which is a much happier question to respond to, I have 2 daughters now, but my older daughter, who's the one that I speak of in my book, is doing wonderfully. She is living with her boyfriend and their 2 cats, and she is working at a job that she absolutely loves. And, you know, when she read my book, she read it when she was about 18. None of this world was her world. You know, it's like when you said, Janice, that hearing all of this feels like a movie. It feels like something fictional. It just can't even be real life. That's what it felt like for her too, because gratefully, I was able to keep that world so far away from her. And because I was dealing with my own trauma, I really overdid it in some ways. Like I didn't even want to eat hummus because it reminded me of Arabs, which reminded me of Islam. Like I was so I never taught her a word of Arabic. Unfortunately, you know, now that I'm calmer, I regret not ever getting her to feel proud of her Egyptian heritage. I just never talked about any of those things. You are Canadian through and through. You know, I absolutely love our country and I'm grateful to our country. And, you know, my husband is Canadian. He's from Newfoundland. And so they have their own, you know, cultural things for her to get involved in. And I just didn't want this world, I didn't want any of it to be any part of her life. Mm-hmm. Having said that, of course, her father is in prison in Egypt for terrorism. So, you know, she is connected to that world. And so it was important for me for her to not identify with him in any way and to just completely disassociate, like that he's just like nothing more than you know, a sperm donor. You know what I mean? Like he has nothing to do with you. He has nothing to do with me. He has nothing to do with our life. And he has nothing to do with who you are. And so that's a big reason why I wanted such a rift between this world and her. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, 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 very proud of her. She's an amazing young woman. And I could not be happier when I look at her and my other daughter, and especially seeing them living their lives so freely. It's like when I said with my clients at Free Hearts, Free Minds, how every time we help somebody, it heals me. I mean, you can just imagine how much it heals me to see my daughters living free lives. It's just an absolute joy.
Oh, wow. As a mom, I'm really connecting with you on that. That is so marvelous. We have quite a few questions that have come in. How do you identify, if you're comfortable saying, agnostic or atheist or?
All the above. So I generally say agnostic, atheist. I don't know for sure what's out there, but I know for sure he didn't write this book or any books, he or she or it, or, you know, so my mind is open when there is, you know, I'm much more comfortable with having a free mind now than I was in the beginning. I was very like, if it is not science, then I'm not interested. But after my experience with meditation and how it has literally saved my life, I'm much more open to knowing that there are lots of things in this world that I don't know and that science doesn't know. And I'm happy and very comfortable to say, I don't know. Okay. But I will also very comfortably say I know for sure the Quran wasn't written by any deities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I had to go no contact with certain people after being outed as queer in court. What most helped you find a sense of identity when you cut ties with parts of your past and people you love that have different views?
Oh, if there's nothing that most helps, it's a very slow process. My favorite way of describing this is borrowing it from Maajid Nawaz, who wrote a book called Radical. So he used to be an Islamist, and now he's for reforming the religion of Islam. And in his book, he talks about that journey as completely rebuilding himself and picking up one brick at a time and just turning it over and over and over and researching it and thinking about it and sleeping on it and deciding, is this a brick that I want to have in me? And then just rebuilding yourself from the ground up. Mm-hmm. That is the best analogy that I could find. That's exactly how it felt to me too. Mm-hmm. Leaving everything you've ever known and starting from scratch. It's incredibly terrifying, but so rewarding because you get to be exactly who you want to be. Nobody gets to define that for you. Yes. So it's definitely worth the struggle.
Yes, I love that. As you well know, it's oftentimes difficult for men coming out of fundamentalist religions to receive help from females. I'm curious how it's been for your therapists treating men, as I know that can be a healing dynamic in recovery, but also can be tough on therapists.
Oh, I've never heard any kind of feedback like that at all. I think that therapists in general, and definitely my two therapists, are they're trained to support people, and I don't think it matters if they identify as male or female or what gender they identify as. We have had trans clients, we've had non-gender conforming clients, and all sorts, and I've never, gratefully, knock on wood, I guess, that's never been any challenge that we've had to deal with. So, yeah.
And can pardon me, therapists such as myself, if someone comes to us and they are either looking to leave the Muslim community, pardon me, or they have left, can we reach out to you? Can we refer to your therapist?
Yes, please. Absolutely. We'd love to help as many people as we possibly can. We're only limited by our funds, really. We have a very long wait list that always looks like, the UN. It's always full of so many different countries. We recently got Mauritania added to the list so that we'd never had a client from Mauritania before. So yes, absolutely. Please do.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. What do you see as the greatest challenge to helping ex-Muslims in the West, and how can Westerners, especially liberals, better support them?
I think that the best way to support them is really to recognize them. So what's going on in the West is there's a lot of support and recognition of people that want to follow Islam, people that want to be conservative Muslims, people who want to wear hijab, people who want prayer spaces, et cetera, halal food in the cafeteria. I mean, there's all sorts of supports for people that are choosing to practice their religion in conservative ways. But there's not really a safe space for ex-Muslims to feel comfortable speaking up, because what we're saying is that we disagree with what is considered in the West to be a protected minority. So it's not that we're disagreeing with the individuals, but we're disagreeing with the ideology. Mm-hmm. And we're speaking out against that ideology. And so it makes people uncomfortable. Even though they may share our values, it makes them uncomfortable to support ex-Muslims. And, that, I have to be honest with you, is really, really hurtful. It feels like such a betrayal, because we are being denounced by our families, we're being denounced by our communities, And then we're finding that the liberal Western societies that we thought we were a part of, I'll talk about Western feminists, Western liberals. That's how I identify. I identify as a liberal feminist. So it's very, very hurtful to find people who also identify as liberal feminists unwilling to support me, and who are much more willing to support women who disagree with their feminist ideals and disagree with their liberal ideals. Right. So it's painful. So I think the thing that you can do more than anything is to just talk about us, mm-hmm. Let it be normalized that there are people that have left this religion, just like there are people who have left Christianity, mm-hmm. and nobody feels uncomfortable speaking about, people who have left the Westboro Baptist Church, or people who have left, Mormonism, or people who are no longer Jehovah's Witness. But when you want to speak about somebody who is no longer Muslim, there seems to be, people feel that there's, for whatever reason, they're not quite as comfortable supporting us. So.
Yeah, and that is such an interesting and very sad dynamic, because, as you say, those of us who left Christianity, we don't suffer that same issue that you're talking about, where people might turn around and say that you are Islamophobic, or whatever word they want to throw at you. And these are the very people that you're looking to for support, and saying, well, we're, you people, you've got it wrong. What a tightrope, what a difficult position for you to be in, for sure. Oh, we've got just a couple of minutes left. Okay. How can therapists in training learn more about the toxic theology in radical Islam to support future patients? What do you recommend? They certainly should be reading your book, Unveiled, but is there anything else that you recommend that future therapists might do?
So yes, definitely. I think reading stories of people who have left Islam. So Unveiled, it's a great example. Also, any books by Ayaan Hirsi Ali. So she has a book called Infidel, another one called Nomad, and another one called Heretic. And, I think that it's not just people who are wanting to leave the religion of Islam, but it's also it's just the trauma of losing your family too, which I think is probably, it adds so much more to it. And that's something that a lot of therapists are familiar with. That's something that a lot of people unfortunately have to go through for different reasons. Their families are disowning them. Mm-hmm. So focus on those aspects of the training would be very important for helping people who have left Islam. Yeah. And so we don't, it's not that we necessarily want to only have ex-Muslim therapists. It's just that's what we have right now. Mm-hmm. But I'm very open. I'm very willing to work with therapists of whatever background, because we're humans and it's the human condition, and we can always support and understand each other.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Yasmine. What a treat it's been just to spend this time with you. Thanks for participating in court. And I see some of the questions we didn't get to. Hopefully, if Yasmine has time, she might pop into Feed Loop sometime within the next couple of days and answer those questions. And please be sure everyone to pop into the exhibit hall too, and you can find out more about Free Hearts, Free Minds and Unveiled there. And we have about 14 minutes before our next speaker on deck. We have Dr. Terry Daniel. So we'll see everybody in a few minutes.